Welcome back to the channel. Warhammer Man back in the studio with a quick little Codex Adeptus Custodes update. It is brand new as of February 22nd, 2022. Little frequently asked questions. Basically just specifying some rules and some issues that had recently come up. If you're new to the channel, make sure to like and subscribe for Warhammer 40,000, Kill Team, Necromunda, Age of Sigmar, and Warcry content as well. Let's take a look. This can be found over at the Warhammer community content under the FAQ section. So we see here Codex Adeptus Custodes, Indomitus version 1.0. This is technically our second update, as we did have an immediate update after the Codex was released due to some weird little delays and everything going on. So these documents collect amendments to the rules and present our responses to players' frequently asked questions. Often these amendments are updates necessitated by new releases or community feedback. At other times, these amendments are errata designed to correct mistakes or add clarity to a rule that is not as clear as it might be. As they've revised regularly, each of these documents has a version number, where a version number has a letter, e.g. 1.1a. This means it has had a local amendment only in the language to clarify a translation issue or other minor corrections. When a document is revised, the version number will be incremented and the new updates will be highlighted in blue, while new errata and FAQ will be highlighted in magenta. So that is their basic little explanation disclaimer deal. This is just one page, so relatively quickly, and this was very much needed. A couple of these are a little more obvious, but there's some RAW, like rules as written issues, and then obviously some of this came up specifically at LVO, so let's jump right in. So updates and errata. Page 52, detachment abilities, Adeptus Custodes, add the following bullet point. For the purposes of determining whether all units in an Adeptus Custodes detachment have a faction keyword in common, Anathema Psychana units in the detachment are treated as having the Adeptus Custodes faction keyword. So this is basically just saying that sisters are not going to stop your army from being considered to all have the Adeptus Custodes keyword. So designer's note, the entry above is to ensure that an Adeptus Custodes detachment that includes Anathema Psychana units still meets the requirement found in mission packs, such as the chapter approved mission packs, which require all units in the army to have a faction keyword in common, which cannot be Imperium. So again, just making sure that Sisters of Silence don't mess with your faction keyword, essentially, but not giving them specific benefits from being Adeptus Custodes units. So, but obviously that's how it was intended to be. So page 55, Wardens of the Dark Cells. Change trait 1 of this shield host fighting style to read. While an enemy unit is within engagement range of one or more units with this trait, subtract 1 from the attack's characteristic of each model in that enemy unit. Designer note, the entry above changes a unit to 1 or more units so that the trait can subtract no more than 1 from the attack's characteristic of models in affected enemy units. So essentially just saying entry above changes a unit to 1 or more units so that this trait can subtract no more than 1 from the attack's characteristic. So it is subtract 1 from the attack's characteristic of each model in the enemy unit, but can't stack -1s to their attacks. So essentially just making sure that you can only ever take away 1 attack from a unit. You can't stack multiple abilities to remove 2 or 3 or whatever attacks. So page 62, Shoulder the Mantle. Change the third sentence to read, until the end of the battle. If that model does not have a warlord trait, it gains 1 warlord trait of the destroyed warlord. So that is Shoulder the Mantle, is the stratagem that you can use when a warlord dies. You can basically pass on and turn a different character in your army into a warlord. So what this is basically doing is, say for instance your warlord has died and has a warlord trait, you cannot transfer this over to a different character who already has a warlord trait and stack multiple warlord traits. So he gains the warlord trait of that destroyed warlord, but you can't do it if he already has warlord traits granted by some other ability, etc. So again, just making sure that you're not stacking warlord traits using this ability. Page 96, Vexillus Praetor, War Gear Options, add the following bullet point. This model can be equipped with 1 Misericordia. So it was just missing from the standard bearer, the Vexilla. Now he can have his Misericordia, and he can dagger. Designer's note, the following abilities should include on the battlefield as part of the requirement for selecting a unit. As such, we are making the following updates. So as requiring on the battlefield is now a prerequisite to use any of these abilities we're about to go through. So page 56, All-Seeing Annihilator, change the first sentence to read, in your command phase, if this warlord is on the battlefield, select this warlord or one friendly Dreadhost core unit within 6 inches of this warlord. Page 61, Wisdom of the Moritoi, change the second sentence to read, select one Adeptus Custode Dreadnought model from your army that is on the battlefield. Page 61, Retribution of the Machine Spirit, change the second sentence to read, select one Adeptus Custodes Machine Spirit model from your army that is on the battlefield. Page 62, Unleash the Lions, change the second sentence to read, select one Alaris Custodian unit from your army that is on the battlefield and contains 2 or more models. And page 62, Martial Discretion, change the second sentence to read, select one Adeptus Custode unit from your army that is on the battlefield, and then select one Kata stance that is not active for your army. So for instance, with something like Unleash the Lions, say you have a Alaris Custodes Terminator unit that is still in reserves. Previously, the way it was worded, you could say take your 5-man unit, you could Unleash the Lions, turn it into 5 1-man units, and then you could deep strike them into different places at will, either all at the same time in different places, or one here, one there, etc. Now, this is specifying that this must already be on the battlefield before you can Unleash the Lions. Therefore, you have to pick and place the unit on the battlefield, and then you could later use the Unleash the Lions stratagem to split this into multiple units or like single character units. So, again, probably was intended always to be that way with these abilities, but just to clarify, specify, make sure there's no question in anyone's minds. And finally, the FAQ. Q is a model that performs a teleport shunt using the Praetorian plate relic considered to have made a heroic intervention when it does so. Answer is yes. Okay, so this was an issue with the Praetorian plate is obviously very, very good. There was an issue at LVO and they had to make a ruling essentially whether or not the move that was being used for the teleport shunt, which is the ability granted from the Praetorian plate, is considered to be a heroic intervention or not, because then could they be fought, etc., was an issue. So now they're saying essentially that the move that you use the Praetorian plate or allows the Praetorian plate to use the move counts as a heroic intervention. So if you use the teleport move, you heroically intervened into combat. Therefore, you can fight and you can also be fought. Q. If a model that has the Orruk Exemplar Warlord trait is selected for a Vigil Unending Stratagem, does it also make the additional attacks granted by this Warlord trait before being removed? A is yes. Okay, so the Orruk Exemplar Warlord trait basically allows the model to stack additional attacks by slaying people throughout the game. So if you would have killed another character throughout the game, you would gain a benefit of additional attacks. And then the Vigil and Unending Stratagem is a stratagem that allows you to fight in death. So if your model has died and then you use the Vigil Unending Stratagem to allow them to fight before being removed from the table, this is just saying that any additional attacks that were granted through the Orruk Exemplar Warlord trait would still be used for that final round of attacks before the model is removed. It doesn't just default back to its original data slate. So hopefully that clarified things. I think most of that was fairly obvious, but the truth is it's always better to just have it 100% clarified so that you don't have extra stress on TOs at tournaments or organizers or judges or whoever, or just local game stores. So this way we know for sure exactly how these things are written, how they're intended, and how they are ruled. So if you like this kind of content, make sure you like and subscribe for Warhammer 40,000, Kill Team Necromunda, Age of Sigmar, and of course warcry content as well. Everything from rules, updates, news, reactions, reviews, unboxings, and then of course we do all kinds of tutorials for painting, modeling, converting, magnetizing, and lighting as well. And of course, we're a commission-based studio, so we show off our commissions as they come out of house. So that being said, Warhammer Man Studios, I'm Warhammer Man. This is our Codex Adeptus Custodes FAQ on February 2022, February 22nd, 2022, 2/22/22, 2/22/22.